There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP Morning Show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, you gumpers.
Hola, bom dia, alegria. Munson here with the Expats Portugal show. How are you on this quinta-feira, on the 29th of September, 2022? Where did that year go? My goodness, how are you this morning? Do let me know in the chat. We've got a couple of great guests today. Around 9 o'clock, we have Mark Leidelmeyer, who moved to the Azores, Azores, if you're Portuguese. How many different ways are there of saying that? Azores, I would say in Portuguese. The Azores, if you also say Porto, and the Azores, if you're British. Other pronunciations of the Azores are very welcome in the chat, please, and do them phonetically, so I know how to say them as well. Jimmy, is that Jimmy Choo, Jimmy the dog that you're shouting out there? To cut the walk a little bit short this morning, because today's tech challenge, it needs its own feature, doesn't it? And in the last couple of days, the monitor has been blacking out, which is quite worrying. Just goes dark. And I was wondering what that was about and just hoping for the best. And then Mrs. M this morning said to me, the main supply of the computer in the studio, it's making this frying sound. Yikes. And I'm thinking, I don't really need that this morning. But thankfully, among all these little adapters here, I've had a universal mains adapter. Look at that lot. That's just half of them, I think. I've got this carrying around this. This is one of those times where that bag of leads and connectors and stuff like that you have that you might even move around the world. Some of you expats. Oh, look how I've spelled Em McGowan there. More haste. No, less speed, more haste. What is it? Which way around is it? Anyway, more attention to detail. That's for sure, Carl. Anyway, the drawer, the bag, the box of bits. I was vindicated this morning. I've had a universal laptop power supply that I think I must have bought over 10 years ago with all the little bits and various voltages it can do and the little adapters to go inside the laptop. Vindicated this morning. The frying mains adapter was promptly dealt with. Yes, is now not likely to burst into flames or anything like that because it's no longer plugged in. Yogi Berra quotes coming in this morning. We started talking about Yogi Berra yesterday, didn't we? More to look at with Yogi Berra. It was a busy day yesterday. Thanks to everybody who met up yesterday in San Martino de Porto. And thank you, T-Duck, producer T-Duck, who has created the most amazing outside broadcast kit, which is an incredible service to what we're doing. So thank you so much, T-Duck, for all you do for the show. The jewel in our outside broadcasting crown yesterday completed and made possible, which we'll use as we go around the country. If you want to host us as an outside broadcast, please do that. And we've got the kit to come and join you now, wherever you happen to be in the country. How exciting is that? Can't do a different one every day. That could be quite exhausting. I think we've got an art launch we've been invited to. That's the first one. And a cocktail party to go with it. Not on the same day, same celebrating the same event. And I will tell you more about that nearer the time. A new art show in Lisbon that's opening up. And very kindly, we've been sent an invitation to go and join the press as it opens up and to join the cocktail party a few years later. Probably you've got a press launch and then an opening evening or something like that where we'll be able to drink cocktails. How cool is that? Keep the cocktails away from the new laptop, if you will, please. So thanks very much, T-Duck, for making all of that possible. Not just that, all you do for the show that people may not be aware of. Your wonderful service to the show. Really appreciate it. So I've got to sort out this M McGowan. It's M small c capital G OWAN. Now, M McGowan, some of you might know, and we've talked about Mark and Mary in the Azores, who Mark will be joining us after 9 to talk about the Azores, which doesn't get as much attention as it might deserve. And I was prompted actually by an inquiry. Oh, there's another typo in there. Let me just deal with that. I was prompted by an inquiry. Somebody mailed me to ask about getting a property lease in the Azores. And I was thinking, who do I know over there? And I know Mark, of course, and you will know Mark too. As and when he joins us this morning, hopefully a little more successfully than the doc. Somebody sent in a picture. James, was it you who sent in a picture of a doc lookalike this morning? So we'll see if you agree. I don't know if it's whether he's a lookalike or a behavior-like, maybe, because if he's all his touring around the around Europe. Is that the comparison you're making there? Let us know, James. So yes, Mary and Mark, probably Mark. I don't know. Mary might join Mark from the Azores, and we'll find out which particular island of the Azores they're joining us from around 9 o'clock. And at 9:40, that's where I was headed. 9:40, Em McGowan. You might know her as Mama Bear McGowan, who heads up Share and Care Portugal. Now, you may remember as well Debbie Dews, who founded that organization in response to the difficult troubles she had when her partner, Michael, passed away, and the terrible times she had, basically. And she wanted to create a service in Portugal for people who are facing bereavement. The emotional, psychological adjustment, of course, and all that means, but also the practicalities of what happens when people pass away here in Portugal, because it is very different, and we need to be in some way prepared for that. And that's and then later, sadly, Deb's passed away, and now the organisation is in the hands of Em, Mama Bear McGowan, and we'll talk fondly of Deb's when Em joins us at 9:40 this morning, and to look at the legacy of Deb's work. Incredibly powerful woman was Deb's, and she was pushing against and with the government here in Portugal to make it easier for people who struggle with a sudden bereavement. I mean, that was part of the problem, is that Michael died suddenly and was the subject of an inquiry, as you would expect, but she wasn't prepared, as nobody probably would be, for what ensued thereafter. And then she faced her own sudden passing as well. And now Em McGowan has taken over, is leading, has taken the helm at Share and Care Portugal, and she'll tell us all about what's gone on in these last few months and what she's learned about dealing with the system here in Portugal in the unfortunate circumstances of people having a sudden death here, and then what to do about that. She is there at your service in that sort of circumstance. Share and Care Portugal. You can find them on Facebook. Now, who's in this morning as we look ahead to a potpourri of Portuguese, trying to think quickly of another P. Nope, it evades me for now. But we do have a potpourri of Portugueseness this morning. Those who love Portugal, live here, who want to live here. Of course, that's what we're all about. And so are all the people who've joined us in the chat. So let's say hi to them this morning, including Lucifer and our very own trainer. You can say, that you've got a personal trainer. Here he is, Coach Turner. Bon dia, Thunder, Yatoros. T-Duck was in early this morning before 8 o'clock, as was Coach Turner here at 7:30 with his God Squad tip of the day. Growing old disgracefully then, gentle fitness for Bon Viveur. Strictly Come Dancing is back on our UK screens and reminds me what great exercise dancing is. Ooh, so put on some tunes and get bopping around the kitchen. Anarchy in the UK for me. Well, I can see that, actually. Can we have a video for that as well, of you pogoing around the kitchen, running amok in your kitchen, causing devastation to domestic goods, denting the washing machine with an inadvertent pogo lunge there in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. Video, please. And that's a great reminder. Yes, dancing. What great exercise dancing is. I keep meaning to brush up my dancing skills. I'd like to be a much better dancer than I am. Less self-conscious. And if there's any help out there, maybe we need a dancing coach as well, Coach Turner. It's fine, though, isn't it? When you're in the kitchen on your own, do what you want. If you're embarrassed on your own in the kitchen, then something is wrong. And I realize that I am. Even if I'm dancing on my own, I'm still feel a little bit embarrassed. What's that all about? Bon dia, Alegria Gumpas from the T-Duck then. Great to see so many faces at the meetup yesterday. Yeah, lovely afternoon, really lovely afternoon. And a deep thought of the day to go with that this morning. Be careful with your words. They can only be forgiven, but not forgotten. Oh my God, thank you very much for that, T-Duck, as I'm about to talk for the next hour and 20 minutes or thereabouts. But you're right. It is important to be careful with our words, isn't it? What's that caveat? And I don't know, is it the four agreements or something to do with hopping up and up and no? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And what's the other one? Can we have that this morning? Can anyone search that out for us? Before we speak, check. Is it kind? Is it useful? Is it going to cost me a lot in court? I don't think that's the third one. Portuguese saying of the day then. Os invejosos mais sentem os bens alheios que os males próprios. The envious feel the goods of others more than their own evils. Oh, envy is its own torturer. Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? The envejosos, the envious. What a lovely word that is, but not a very nice condition to be in, clearly. Dad jokes, thank you very much, T-Duck, for those as well. We'll come back to those towards the end of the show. Oh, and you have to run off to the grocery store. You'll be back soon. Okay, but before he goes, he says, smash, smash, smash that like button. Do we know what that actually does and whether it does anything? We thought, didn't we, getting to 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube was going to change the world for us. It doesn't seem to have so far, does it? I mean, I'm not complaining. Just, within those YouTuber circles, the 10K mark is seen as quite an extraordinary level to get to. And it is. I mean, obviously it is that 10,000 people are subscribing to the Expats Portugal channel is a great thing. But I thought it was going to be like Las Vegas, when the three cherries line up or whatever they are, or the three bells line up, and then just, there's cash pouring out of every orifice suddenly and everyone's whooping and cheering. Not quite like that so far on YouTube there. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not complaining about that. It's lovely that each and every one of the 12,400 or so subscribers is loved and blessed each time they open up an Expats Portugal video there. So it's a great achievement, but not quite what you're told, like so many things in the tech world, right? But let's see if we can find out what that is. Is it kind? Is it useful? And is it something else? And the origins of that little check before one opens one's mouth. Bom dia, Gampas, from James. Feliz quinta a todos. Como tem passado? Thank you very much. Muito bem, obrigado. Contigo, Senor Oli. How do I like that, Senor Oli. It sounds a bit like Laurel and Hardy, doesn't it? Hey, Senor Oli. How do I have to be? Also, it sounded a bit like Yogi Bear, who's on the agenda at the moment. How do I have to be in order for you to be free? Wow, Orland Bishop, what would it look like? Now, that's a poignant question, isn't it? On the Q this morning from James. And a Yogi Berra quote of the day. The future ain't what it used to be. He's a proper wag, old Yogi Berra, isn't he? The future ain't what it used to be. Very good. A bit like nostalgia isn't what it used to be. Who was it who said that? Bon dia, Gumpers. Apologies. I ended up missing the whole show yesterday. Got delayed in work around 8:20, getting ready to knock off at 9, and a person needed union help. 11:30 left work. Well, good for you and good for that person who you supported there. Sounds like you're a shop steward at your place of work, Deagle. Keep up the good work, my friend. Especially poignant at the moment, isn't it? It would appear that the work of the unions is a useful force when it comes to pushing back a little bit against some of the race to the bottom excesses that we're seeing, certainly in the UK and probably all around the world. Solidarity with anyone struggling against difficult working conditions. Unkindness should not be tolerated anywhere in the world, and especially in the workplace where people are just trying to make a living and earn enough to feed themselves and their families and put a roof over their head. Keep up the good work, Deagle. And bon dia, Carl and Campus from a dry, mild 10 degrees Belfast. And weather report from Belfast. Very wet and windy Friday. Not a named... Yeah, they're getting through them, aren't they? Ian's causing trouble, isn't he? Hurricane Ian over there in the United States. Let us know that you're safe if you're in any way potentially affected by Hurricane Ian. I mean, the last time I looked, we were looking at Hurricane Eric or something, weren't we? Now, what's going on? I guess it's the time of year. It's the season, isn't it? Well, and I was going to say, I hope so. I hope not. But one can perhaps be a little bit more forgiving of seasonal storms. But when they're coming thick and fast at any willy-nilly, any time of the year, that's extra scary, isn't it? What with everything else that's going on in the world at the moment. So good luck to you if you're in the path of Ian. and let us know that you're safe and well, if you will, if that is the case for you. Over 1 inch of rain in Belfast, though. Look at that. Everyone, a simple greeting. Lord Gilchrist with a simple greeting this morning, issuing from his balcony in Lisbon. Morning, everyone. How are my people this morning? And Nuno is here as well. Good morning, everyone. Today we've a cloudy sky over Lisbon. When we spoke to Nuno on Tuesday, very blue skies over Lisbon, and he was very glad of that. He told us he was solar powered, so that was really working for him. So not so much this morning then with a cloudy sky. Your solar power might need a little bit of a boost from, no, not from the mains. Andy, Bairandi, bon dia from a damp Bairrada this morning. Good thing, as we had that roof tile cleaner put on yesterday, and it's meant to be washed off with rain. Oh dear. Okay, so hopefully any downpours will stay away from Bairrada. A little bit damp, but not peeing down by the sound of it. Got to walk the papa back in a bit. Oh, okay, so you're off on your dog walk this morning. There is technology available, Andrew, whereupon you can listen to these sorts of things in headphones without cables even. Can you believe it? No cables at all, not into your wireless transistor radio device that you have in your pocket, aka your mobile phone, and no cables on the headphones. You can walk around oblivious to all the noise of the world, and you can stay tuned into us when you go off to walk the dog. Some people do that, actually. People have said that on the podcast. So, yeah, I go off on my walk the dogs, and listen to you talking about Portugal, and they're somewhere else in the world. Shout out to you if you are listening in on the podcast. Oh, no, we're not doing that at the moment. I do miss the old intro song, Whistling Bells, Radio Tuning. Nostalgia. Well, I think we should bring that back. T-Duck and I have been talking about a few production touches that we want to explore. So, yes, don't worry. The whistling, that whistling will haunt. You see, there are people who really don't like the whistling, and we're quite glad when it went. I think it might be like sonic coriander. Maybe it sounds like soap when they hear whistling for some people. But anyway, we will be bringing it back, and we won't overdo it for those people. But yes, the radio tuning, the bells, the big dong in the morning. Who doesn't like a big dong first thing in the morning? The bells, the whistles, the radio tuning. We will in some way bring it back, rest assured. Springsteen releases a new song at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, America. That'll be of interest to a few folks here. It's from a new soul album. Springsteen's getting all soul-y, is he? I mean, a fairly soulful singer in the widest definition of the word, of course, but not your traditional soul singer. I'm interested to hear what's on there. Is he doing some soul covers on there, or has he written some new soul tunes? Has time and experience got to him, and he's gone a bit bluesy and soul-y there? Deagle, tell us more. I've got a link to that. And wasn't Jimmy the Undertones? He certainly was. Little mummy's boy, oh, he wasn't very old. 80s memory there for you. Feargal Sharkey, he's grown up, hasn't he? Feargal, she's an old geezer now. Feargal, there he was, like you, Coach Turner, pogoing around the place, looking a little bit edgy, and now he's a spokesman for a generation, doing a great job raising the issue of water quality in the UK. So teenage kicks have turned from teenage kicks into mature concerns about water quality in the United Kingdom. Hey, Pam, good morning to you. And you sent me something this morning, which is the Leiria sobre Rodas 2022. What on earth is that? Oh, we've got some, after sharing those lovely cars with you, was that yesterday? Yeah, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? We have the Leiria sobre Rodas. And don't worry, I don't understand what it means anyway, but it's going on between the 13th and 16th of October, and it involves cars in some way. Let me have a sip of water and a little bit of a cough there. So let's find out. Pam, what is this? Is there going to be a road race through Leiria? Oh, that's nice. Forgot about water. Very nice. Water kefir the other this morning, didn't I? Wonder if... Yeah, Mrs. M, any more of that lovely water kefir? Okay, so the details are scant. What is the Portuguese word for scant? Because fair enough, you've sent us this link, but I'm not sure what it's about. But you can find out if you like motor cars, and I would say performance motor vehicles. It looks to me here like there is a Peugeot donutting around a racetrack here. or part of the racetrack anyway, as it spins around and shows off a little bit. I'm going to put that into the chat for anybody who's interested in motor racing. Leiria sobre rodas. And of course, as I mentioned before, James thinks that the dock here, I wonder if I've downloaded that picture. And let's get to the bottom of this, because I'm not sure what you mean exactly, James, if you think there's a resemblance, a visual resemblance with this, or is it just the nature of the man, the personality of the man? Do you think that looks like a young Doc Thompson, or is it because he's racing around Europe at the moment? And oh yes, by the way, he sent me a message after the show to say that there was no connection at his parents' house where he would appear to be staying. I've got a couple more things to download if you'll bear with me, including solid book review meme, bit of memery this morning. That's a cracker. For anyone struggling to sleep at the moment, we've got a great book for you. We've got another meme. There are memes, aren't there, that you see for the first time and you think, that's really funny. I must download that. Then you forget and you see it a second time. No, I really must download that. And then on the third time, you say, okay, I'm definitely downloading it now. And I've got some, strangely enough, I've got some woodwork to share with you as well. This was a thing of beauty that I saw on Twitter. So a few things to share with you before we welcome Mark at around 9 o'clock this morning, who's joining us from the Azores. I wonder how he says it. We will find out, of course, and not long from now. So what's that, James? Beyond the Grid, we've got a look-alike possibly, or a behaviour-like. Here's that fabulous book review. In that, if you can't see on a small screen, in that lady's hands, she's fallen asleep on what looks like a London Underground tube train there, and she's fast asleep. How to Sleep Well is the name of the book. Solid book review there. And what else have we got for you this morning? Let's have a look. Oh, this was a good question that I want to leave hanging there this morning. Tony McCann. Hi, Tony. On a cruise, pulled into, I think he might be over at the Azores at the moment. That's interesting, isn't it? A few roads, or certainly the sea pointing towards the Azores at the moment. Finding out more from Mark in just a little while. But Tony McCann, from his cruise as he was sailing down the Tejo and docking in Lisbon. Carl Munson, is Lisbon the spiritual home of Portugal? Looking at the Cristo Rey there, of course. And my answer to him was, well, I'm not going to get myself into that sort of trouble. I've been writing about Tomar recently, which I would certainly have down as one of the spiritual epicenters of Portugal. But what do you make of that? Is Portugal the spiritual home? Is Lisbon the spiritual home of Portugal? Some might say Coimbra as well. Some might say Braga, the ancient. I mean, what does spiritual home mean? Does it mean where there is a lot of spiritual vibes, or does it mean the ancient heart and center of the country? I'll leave that with you. This one I liked as well. The guy at the furniture store told me the sofa would seat 5 people without any problems. And this applies, I think, to a lot of us here. Then it occurred to me, I don't think I know 5 people without any problems. Very good. And look at this if you can. If you've got a big screen, this is a most beautiful piece of work. You're thinking those bears are swimming in water. That is wood carving. Now, this is very random, but you know how I've been talking recently about how we must share our art and craft with each other. Music, arts, Terence was on live painting. Robert was here. Bob Yonker was here playing some of his music. We are a very creative community. And I just wanted to share this with you as a bit of inspiration. I suspect there are carpenters and woodcarvers among us as well. But look at this. Congratulations to my father, who was today announced as one of the Heritage Crafts finalists for Woodworker of the Year. I suspect this is over in the UK. Not bad for a self-taught carver. Look at this, Andrew Gilchrist, who uses tools he made himself out of sharpened Land Rover springs. This piece, by popular demand, is solid Scottish elm. Well, ochai the new to that. I mean, look at it. The ripples on the water, so beautifully captured by improvised tools and a self-taught woodcarver. Random, but worthy of inclusion, I would say. Thank you very much, Twitter, for sending that our way. Let's look at a few more comments then, and see what you're saying this morning. We had a bon dia from Pamela, who may tell us more about the road race in Alcobaça coming up soon. Or is it Leiria? I think it's probably Leiria. They're not going to be racing cars around the little streets of Alcobaça, are they? Hey, Deagle, when are you heading to... We will have a How Many Sleeps countdown in just a moment from Ian Turner. And my favourite... Look at this. We're talking about Feargal Sharky in the undertones, and Pam's favourite undertone song is Mars Bar. Is that how Feargal Sharky talks? I don't think so. Sorry about that. Doc, Resemblance. Okay, that's a young Doc Resemblance. Let's have a look at that. Maybe if he's watching, he'll send us it. I see what you mean. I do see what you mean. We need a picture of a young, handsome Doc Thompson as well to go with that, don't we? Thank you very much for that, James. The things that go through your mind, my friend. The Porky Feet Andy loves a bit of Teenage Kicks. Who doesn't? What a tune that was, epitomizing many people's love of punk. Back in the day, it was a crossover, wasn't it, between punk and new age? I think. Were they strictly speaking a punk band, or were they more of a new age, new wave? What am I talking about? New age, what? Punk meets new age. That'll be interesting. There's probably somebody on Instagram who is exploring that. What do they call it? Intersection between punk and new age. That's the Doc Age 25. That is okay. So other people seeing that as well too. There he is. Yeah, he is. He is a petrol head for sure, and he's also an electric vehicle owner, which he occasionally turfs himself out of his electric mobility machine, of course. Baddy's in. Oh yes, before I forget, Bon dia alegria from rainy Iceland this morning. Oh, it's all about cars. That Leiria sobre Rodas. I think they have a race of some kind by the stadium. Wow. Okay, so you'll smell petrol and hear the roar. Over there in Leiria between the 13th and 16th of October. I believe, oh, look at this, the spiritual centre of Portugal. It's the people. Well said. Well said. Can't argue with that. And to Victoria, Carl, you've sent me the ad on WhatsApp. It all covers. Oh, okay, that's the Bruce Springsteen news. So let's have a look at that a bit later on. First time he's ever released a single before an album. Do I Love You, a Frank Wilson song. Tune! I'm liking the sound of this new Springsteen album. I suppose Fatima has a claim to be the spiritual home of Portugal. Yes, of course. Thank you, Pam. And Nom de Plume Sarah's here with a bon dia alegria this morning. And wow, that's incredible. Is that the woodwork you're talking about? It is, Francis. Shall I send that on to you so you can have a closer look at that? And Darren Live is here. Anyone attending the Penella Festival? Well, if they're not, they should be, because Penella is a great place. Shout out to our new French friends who headed over that way at the weekend. Hope you're very happy in your new home over that way. And the Penella Festival, that is an autumnal thing, isn't it? Walnuts on the trees, actually on the ground. You can eat fresh walnuts from the ground over at Penella Castle there. And then you can pop down the road to Rubber Sal and eat some of that wonderful cheese that they make over there. I think it's a mistura cheese, a bit of dairy and a bit of goat in there. They make fantastic cheese. And there's an amazing Roman ruin that's not open very often, but there is a tourist centre at Rubber Sal where you can find out about what the Romans did for the Portuguese back in the day. I'm back. Okay, stop talking about Lord Gilchrist now. He's back and he can hear what you're saying. And Stephen Wells, we're the bon dia. We're coming up to 9 o'clock. We're going to go, folks, and we don't do this enough. Oh, look, PT Country Bear. Hello, how are you this morning? Love Penella Castle. Good morning to you, PT Country Bear. And yes, we don't go to the Azores, we don't talk about it enough or go there enough. We're going to put that right now. Nice round of applause, please, for Mark Leidelmeyer. How about that, Mark?
Hey, can you hear me? You hear me okay?
Oh, do you know what? We can not only hear you, but we can hear cicadas. I think they're in the bushes as well. Is that right?
Yes, we have crickets out here, and there's roosters crowing, and yeah, it's quite nice out here this morning.
That's how you. Oh, look at that! Oh, are we in the same time zone, Mark?
No, you're an hour later there.
Oh, okay. So, well, thank you. Does that mean you've got up early, especially for us?
No. I'm up. No problem.
Well, thank you so much for being here. What a lovely start. Which part of the Azores are you on there?
I'm on the island of Faial, and I'm on the north side of the island in sunny Cedros. Oh, so, right. Yeah, it's quite beautiful here. Very nice.
It feels it already. I can see the sun on your face there, and I can hear the ambiance that you obviously enjoy over there. Yeah. Wow. And how do you say it? Do you say it in true American style, the Azores, or do you say this? What do you say?
I'm still in the American zone on that, but I'm trying to change over.
Well, good luck with that transition. It's quite different, isn't it, saying the Azores and the Açores? It's all soft, isn't it, when the Portuguese say it?
Yeah, it's kind of goes with the rest of the language. It's a difficult transition for an American citizen, you know. So
we're feeling you. We're feeling you with that. You're not alone.
yeah.
Certainly not alone with that. Good luck with it. Why the Azores then? What made you move there, and where did you come from?
So my wife and I moved over here from the Seattle area in Western Washington, and we had been looking all over the globe, actually trying to find the right place for us to retire. Turns out Mary has some relatives from a few generations back that came from this island. Left here in the late 1800s to go to the island of Hawaii for work, and yeah. So and then from Hawaii, her family moved to the Washington, Western Washington area. So in our search, we had put together a list of criteria of things that we were looking for, and we decided to apply the list to this area here, and lo and behold, things looked like a very, very good match. So we came over and did some research on a couple of different islands and absolutely fell in love with it. So we decided to do this.
That is so wonderful. Now, your first attention, was it on Portugal in general? Was it always going to be the Azores for you?
It actually was going to be the Azores. So right. Just because of her family history, and so we thought that we would make some connections as far as that's concerned. Haven't really. We've been quite busy, but that's still here. That's still available. So and it's on this island as well. So and everything's close here. So yeah, we have time now.
Well, that is lovely. What a wonderful thing to be doing with your time, to like connecting up with the ancestors on the island there. And what a journey that Mary's family have been on. Oh, look at that. Thank you so much. And love to Mary as well. Please do say hi to
I will do
Mary.
that. Yeah.
You remark upon a very interesting phenomenon there, which is, we're going to go to Portugal, we're going to go to the Azores, and we're going to connect with our family history. But you have to spend some time getting settled in, don't you? Is that
most definitely.
What's been going on in that process?
Yeah, well, so I'm still working also, and so I've had a couple. Yeah, I travel globally for work, and so I've had a couple of pretty extensive business trips. But in the meantime, we managed to buy a house here also, and that's our little pink house that you see behind me. And it's a very nice, small, traditional stone house. But yeah, the transition has been it's been a bit of a challenge, as you might well imagine. You know, it's selling everything and moving halfway across the world. So
yeah, well said. And I think moving to Portugal is one thing, but moving to the Azores is probably a whole other niche and level of complexity as well.
I would imagine there's challenges being out on an island. Challenges if you do choose to bring your stuff.
Yes.
Which we chose to get rid of most of our stuff, but I still have some boxes back in storage, and I've been trying to make arrangements to get them back over here. That's either flying them over with me in luggage or potentially shipping them. We've come to the conclusion that actually flying them over as luggage, it's going to be cheaper than shipping them surface freight, which is shocking, but that's the case now.
It is the case now, for sure. And so that particular complexity for people who are interested in going to the Azores to live, what happens? I mean, when people are often saying, I'm going to go to Portugal, I'll arrive in either Lisbon or Porto, job done. When you fly to the Azores, you've got a number of options, haven't you? You've got to choose which island. How does that work for you? Can you fly direct to the island you live on?
No. So we have to fly through Ponta Delgada on Sal Miguel. which really isn't a big deal because it's only a 40-minute flight, but there are limitations as far as weather and time frames and the time of year as well. So in the summertime, there's tourist activity, and so there are more flights going back and forth. But we're now getting out of that tourist time zone, and so the flights are diminishing. There will still be daily flights, but not as frequently. So, but the planes are small, so you can't carry a lot of luggage on them.
This is really, I mean, this is a very specific lifestyle choice, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Like flying into Lisbon or Porto, is it? This is a different kind of Portuguese migration.
So our first trip over, we flew through Lisbon on TAP Air Portugal, and man, I'm telling you, it was a different ball of wax going through there. It was, I would have to say, it was much more stressful.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, well,
then you flew back. You flew back to Ponta Delgado, and then another flight after that. So it's always quite an arduous trek, isn't it, for you to finally get yourself in your favorite armchair?
Yes, it is. That's a reality. But you know what? This armchair is quite comfy, and you know we love it. Absolutely love it here. There's challenges. You know, we're so this little house that we bought, we're going to be doing some remodeling. I'm a hands-on guy. I usually do a lot of the work myself. I can do carpentry work. I can do plumbing, electrical. You know, all the standard stuff in the United States. Well, that ain't standard over here.
Can you give us a couple of examples? What have you tried to do and been thwarted?
Well, first of all, just locating materials.
Yes.
Yes. So here out on the islands, if you need lumber, well, you go to the mill and you have your lumber milled for you.
Wow.
And yeah. So there's a few stores that carry a bit of lumber, but it's not even close to what, you know, Home Depot carries or something like that.
Well, that must be a day out, going to the mill and having to translate and convey.
Yes,
to the,
it's interesting.
I have been in a Portuguese wood mill. And they are, well, the one I went to was quite a terrifying place. You know, it had some very dangerous looking equipment in it. And I think the lovely lady there did saw up what we wanted. We were making some rustic shelves. Thankfully, rustic. It's a bit more forgiving. It's a bit more forgiving, isn't it, when you do rustic? But
yes,
there
that's
she
right.
was, in what looked like Dickensian conditions, chopping up. I mean, she was quite the woman, chopping up massive, chucking wood, you know, huge pieces of timber around and giving us what we wanted. It was quite an amazing experience in the middle of nowhere in central Portugal. Well, that sounds like fun, Mark. Let's have a look at to put it in the picture. I mean, people think they know the Azores perhaps by name. But let's talk a little bit more, if we may, about the wonder that is the island.
Sure.
I'm looking at visitportugal.com here. To the east on the island of Santa Maria, the beaches of warm white sand are inviting, and the vineyards covering the slopes like an amphitheater resemble giant staircases. Have you been to Santa Maria? That sounds wonderful. No. White sand beaches.
So I believe these are this is in the southern group, which I don't believe is technically known as part of the Azores proper. This is
really?
So there's two groups of islands off the coast of Portugal, and I believe Santa Maria is to the south. I don't know this for sure, Carl, but the name Santa Maria, I do not recognize it as part of one of the islands in this group here.
Okay, all right. Oh, yeah, the central group. We can go on to talk about that, because I would have thought, if Santa Maria just had mud and shingle as its beaches, it probably wouldn't get claimed, would it? But they're making it part, because it's got these white sand beaches and vineyards. It's definitely part of the Azores as far as Visit Portugal are concerned. Sal Miguel, the largest island, is seductive with its sete cidades and fogo lagoons, so lagoons there as well. The power that emanates from the earth is felt in the geysers, hot thermal waters, and volcanic lakes, as well as the tasty cozido, the sfumash, slowly cooked inside the earth. And you do see this occasionally, don't you, on tourist clips. Have you eaten that? Have you eaten the food cooked in the ground?
You know, we tried. So our first, but it wasn't working that day. I mean, it was closed when we were there, and so we missed that occasion. But we did make that effort. But I tell you what, our visit to Sal Miguel, this is what really, really opened our eyes to the beauty of the islands here. It just blew our minds, and we stayed there for a week. And we actually came very, very close to deciding to move to that island because the diversity, the sheer beauty, the different small towns each have their own character. It's a large island, so you don't feel real claustrophobic or anything like that. And there's tons of culture, great little city, very, very friendly people, and it was a very, very good experience. But then when we came out to Fayal, yeah, we decided this vibe was more for us.
I can see it. I mean, the light is so beautiful, Mark, there.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is, you know.
It's fantastic. It's an extraordinary place for sure. And incredible to think that you kind of get it all figured out at San Miguel. And then it escalates to another level of beauty.
And honestly, Carl, we haven't even been to any of the other islands yet. And we're looking forward to doing this. And actually, we're going to be going over to Pico, which is very close. I'm not sure if you can see Pico peeking through behind that telephone pole.
I'll just put you on the big screen, and then maybe that could be a bit easier for people. Yes, we can, I think. Yeah, beneath the clouds there.
Yes. So this is a 3,000-meter mountain, and the island is quite big, and they have, but the population is less. But they do have some nice stores over there, restaurants, and lots of Airbnbs, and what I hear are very good hardware stores. So this is a goal of mine.
Be coming back on the airplane. How much lumber can you take with you on a flight?
So this actually, so Pico is close enough. I can catch a ferry. So I can drive my car on, or I can just walk on, and it's only 20 minutes away.
That's great, because you know, some people are just like, "Honey, I'm just popping to Home Depot
to
get that one bolt I forgot." You've got to be a bit more thoughtful, haven't you, when you live on the Azores?
Yes.
I think you know.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
We've got people saying hi to you this morning. Bon dia, Mark from Deagle. He's in Belfast, in Northern Ireland there.
Hello.
Saying it's starting to feel autumnal. Here we go. Look, broa in some cafes. The seasonal foods are coming out. Walnuts. It's a good harvest of walnuts this year. That's good to know. Movies is in this morning, sharing the love. It would appear. And somebody you might know here, Mark. We've got Donna Mclaughlin with us. Morning, Mark and Carl. Glad to see you made it, Mark. I think you are.
Yes.
I've moved to Algarve. Enjoy. So you know Donna.
Yes, I do. Actually, Donna gave us some very enlightening information early on when we were doing our research on the realities of medical out here and insurance and that kind of thing. She spoke to us about an experience that she had that really helped to tie down our thoughts on that. The medical situation here is what it needs to be for us. We don't have any medical issues, but she does. And she had an issue that she needed to go to the mainland for treatment, and she was treated very well. And her treatment was very, very inexpensive when it came down to it. So that's very inexpensive. Yeah.
Well, great to hear from you this morning, Donna, and glad to hear that.
Hi, Donna.
And so that is a consideration. Perhaps people who need more closer attention with medical stuff might prefer to be in mainland Portugal.
Well, yeah, we do have here in Horta on our city here on Fayal. We have a decent sized hospital. Sal Miguel also has a decent sized hospital, Terceira, where Donna is, has a decent sized hospital because they're a military base out there. But if you have very specific concerns, which she had a heart condition that she needed to deal with, keep that in mind because the specialists aren't here. However, the cost, the cost for transport and that kind of thing, if you have insurance, then you'll be taken care of.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And bon dia, Mark, from Jim as well, who's up in Porto this morning. Good morning to you, Jim. Yeah, so on those sort of practicalities, the hardware stores can be a little bit hard to find. Timber, lumber is a day out. Medical care, you might want to think twice about being closer to some of the bigger facilities if you've got some issues like that. Any other things that have really opened your eyes to what people might need to know about living on the islands there?
So the reality is that there's a honeymoon phase of relocating, and I think we're still sort of in the honeymoon phase, but the reality of the situation is now presenting itself. We absolutely still love it. We are 100% all in. We bought a house. We're learning now how to deal with all the various little differences that we were so spoiled with back in the United States. And there's a myriad of these situations, and it seems like new ones every day, but the bottom line, it's this. This is the bottom line. And we love the people here. They're just warm and friendly and helpful, and they'll give you the shirt off their back. And it's just that the island is an island, and these are islands out here, and so you need to be aware if you're thinking about coming out here that it's a whole different ball of wax out here and availability of all kinds of different things and services. It's challenging at times.
Island life, I mean, that is a known phrase. Island life. Would you recommend then that people maybe do a tester stay before committing themselves fully to that kind of absolutely. And I'll tell you what, though, it'll be hard because when you come out here and do this tester run, which we did, we went out and we stayed here for, excuse me, I got to disconnect this call here. So no worries. I know you're a busy guy.
So anyway, so we came out and we spent a month here, and the intention was that we were going to bounce around 3, maybe 4 of the islands. So we stayed in Sal Miguel for a week and a half, and then we came out here to Fayal, and this is all we needed to see. And we were just gaga about the beauty and how friendly everybody was, and the culture and the history and the nature and all that stuff. It's difficult not to get carried away with all that stuff, but if you're coming to do your research and look at the realities of what you will be getting yourself into here, as far as in your decision making to bring all your stuff out or sell all your stuff. Looking back on it now, I probably wouldn't have sold as many of my tools as I did. That's the reality, because the availability of those kinds of items is very limited here as well. And so you have to look at ordering from Amazon Germany or Amazon Spain, and there's time frames and not necessarily availability of the same items and that kind of thing. So
that's interesting. Is there a premium as well for delivery to the Azores?
With Amazon, no, but with some of the other delivery services, there is.
Wow, interesting stuff. Okay, I showed a picture earlier on of a wood carver, a self-taught
Yeah,
wood
I saw
carver.
that. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that very well on the screen. You know, a lot of people are watching on phones and so on, but that's beautiful. This guy made himself,
Absolutely.
yeah, he made himself tools out of
I
sharpened Land
saw
Rover springs. How about that?
this.
It's an
So
idea.
this spoke to me, you know, because I can totally relate with what the guy was challenged with. Here he has these skills, and the tool wasn't available that he needed, so he made it.
Yes, you've got to have some tools to make the other tools, though, haven't you?
Yeah,
You need
right.
to
Yeah.
start it there. Okay.
Yep.
Jim's asking, Mark, I missed where you're from in the US. We lived in Hawaii, in a sense that there are similarities. So there's two things there. Seattle, you said, was the area you moved from, right?
Seattle area. I was out on the Olympic Peninsula, actually, so
Okay.
across the water.
Right. And Hawaii are the Azores the Hawaii of Portugal?
Yeah, actually, you know, I spent a couple of years in Hawaii going to school to the university down there, and I would say it's a very close match, except that Hawaii has more stuff. You know, it's better equipped because it's a U.S., you know, it's a state. So they ship, things are more expensive over there, but it's available. And the availability is different here. But as far as the terrain, definitely, I would say that these islands are very similar to the Hawaiian Islands.
That's
Very.
fascinating. No, very
Yeah.
good, very good. And you get the occasional rumble there? Have you been having a few
Yeah.
tremors? Is that
So
part of northern life as well?
So this area is prone to earthquakes and
Right.
you know volcanic eruptions. We had one on this island here in 1958, a big one. It was the most recent eruption on the chain here. And there have been some very severe earthquakes out here as well. Since I've been here, we've had a couple of 2-point something earthquakes. I didn't feel them. I've worked in areas where, you know, there were frequent earthquakes, and I haven't felt anything noticeable here. But these stone houses, this little house that I'm in, this is one of the older original homes. It was probably built originally in the mid 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah, the walls are almost a meter thick. And they're built with two layers of stone, inside layer and outside layer.
Yeah.
And they're built to withstand most of these earthquakes. But you know, when you get a 9-point something, then shit happens.
Yes, that's a very accurate figure.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a flexible timber frame, is it?
Yeah, right. No.
Okay.
But
sorry, go on.
That being said, this little house, you can see what kind of condition it is in 1998 here on Fayal. Around the corner on the island here, there was I want to say it was a 9.2 earthquake. It did immense amounts of damage, very close to here. But this house survived. There's a lot of ruins here, a lot. And these ruins are, you know, the remnants of people's homes that probably they just gave up after the last earthquake. And there were, you know, when these events happen, from what I understand, the United States opens the doors to people to come and move over there. So there's a lower population out here now than there was, let's say, in the 60s.
That's interesting. So there's a special relationship between the Azores and the United States.
It sounds that way. I haven't actually heard that this is officially the case, but I've heard that after each one of these major events, the United States welcomes the people and they leave. Amazing. And they've left. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All part of the fascinating history of the islands there. Bon dia from Pete as well this morning. There are some great nurses in the Azores. That's what a tempting offer. But you want to You want to stay out of the way of nurses, really, don't you?
Right.
As tempting as that sounds, Pete, in the Azores, and as Mrs. Portuguese will testify, and you have helicopters to the mainland. That's quite an arrival, isn't it? If you have to fly into hospital at any time, hopefully not.
Yeah, you know, I've never heard a helicopter leaving from or seen one at the airport here. I think they put you on a plane, and you know, they hold you at the hospital until there is a plane available. And but that being said, I wonder if Donna didn't get a helicopter ride. I think she said something about that.
Really?
It's possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want to cause any fuss. It's probably just a little twinge. Nope, you're getting in the helicopter. Let's go. Oh, and apparently, here's another reason to keep you out of hospital. The hospital sounds like it's haunted, possibly, over there in the Azores.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Antonio, good morning to you. And a lovely anecdote here. I remember being in Fayal more than 20 years ago and going to a cash machine to withdraw some cash. At the end of the day, I got something like the following message: no cash available. Please head to the nearest ATM, Ilha do Pico, Ilha Graciosa. Easy to helicopter for that. I would need the money to take a boat to another island. Hilarious. That's fantastic. More than 30 years ago. But I'm guessing, Mark, it hasn't, in many ways, it hasn't probably changed that much, has it? I mean, it does sound like it's got this ancient feel to it.
It does, and so if you go to Sal Miguel is a pretty modern city now. It's still, you know, it definitely has its charm, but it's a pretty modern city. But here in Horta, it's a quaint little city, and you know, we haven't. Part of our intention here is to be able to easily bop over to the mainland and go do some traveling and visiting some of the very cool old cities in Portugal and rest of Europe.
Yeah,
this city here has that vibe. I mean, it's a very old city. This island was settled back in the 1500s, and there's buildings still standing dating from the 1700s, the early 1700s in Horta. So they're just quaint and beautiful, and there's enough to do in this city here that we're okay for now. But like I said, we're still sort of in the honeymoon phase, but we're not big city dwellers and party animals and that kind of thing. We're happy with our country life here.
Yeah, the life you've created there sounds and looks beautiful. Getting a bit windy now. And thank you, says Jim. I worked for the University of Hawaii on the Big Island and loved it. Antonio telling us the last big earthquake, 7.2 in the Azores, was January the 1st. What a date for that happened, 1980 on the New Year's Day, causing 73 deaths and 400 injuries. That's awful. The special relationship, what? The US welcoming refugees? Stop it, Jess. Pro-barring in a political insight there. And indeed, says Mr. S, we have a lot of Portuguese folks from the Azores living in Massachusetts. So there you go.
Yes, a lot.
Two Portuguese consulates in Massachusetts. So they went over there after a problem, a challenge possibly, and never came back. No helicopter ride. Lol, says Donna. And in the 1800s, says Jim, there was a lot of migration from the Azores to Madeira to Hawaii. From the Azores and Madeira to Hawaii for working sugarcane. Mia Ajmira's just put up a video on her trip there this month. Fantastic. Excellent stuff. It's been so lovely talking to you, Mark. You went to see Les Gallagher, our mutual friend as well. Which island is he on? He has the wonderful Oceanic Bar there, right?
Yes, he's here in Horta. So, yes.
To go see him. Do give him my regards.
I will, yeah. I just was over ahead of his place here. When I'm in town, I'll stop by his place every once in a while if I have to jump on my computer and get on the internet. He lets me have the run of the place, and super nice guy, really cool facility, and he's got the party place in town too. So
I imagine there's some legendary parties there. If you're going to visit the Azores and go to Horta, make sure you go see Les and maybe give Mark a call and have a good drink. They brew their own beer as well, don't they? There.
Pardon me.
they brew their own beer, I think, in the Oceanic bar.
He has somebody brewing beer for him. So
Amazing.
yeah. But really, his claim to fame is his art.
Yeah.
He is an amazing marine artist. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Really, it's his is it's scientific art. It is, you know, truly accurate to form and function and color and all that stuff. It's absolutely amazing
They are
stuff.
beautiful, and he can captain a fishing boat as well. He's a Renaissance man, and his work is seen in Portuguese schools, isn't it? Because we have interviewed him on here about his wonderful for oceanic or heritage and conservation. Mark, love to Mary, and please, can we do this again? Can we do this again?
Sure, absolutely.
We've really enjoyed visiting Horta and Fayal this morning in the Azores. That beautiful sunrise and the far view of Pico there was absolutely beautiful. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. So good.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
All the very best to you with the honeymoon period and the American to Portuguese transition and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Yep. Bye. Take care. Bye.
There he goes. Could have talked to Mark all morning and seen those lovely pictures of the Azores there. Fantastic. What a lovely bloke. And what a lovely place to be. As soon as that sound, could hear that in the background on the Azores Share this morning with Mark talking to us. We're gonna come back to the mainland now, and another round of applause for another very special guest this morning. How about that? Yes, quite right too. Em McGowan, Mama Bear McGowan is with us this morning. How are you, Em?
Fabulous. And how's you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, pretty good. I mean, I found that talking to Mark there and seeing the sun on his face and the Azorean sunrise and the sounds, it felt really nourishing popping over there. You too are in a nice, nourishing part of Portugal, I think. Are you in Central at the moment?
I am. I'm in near Castanheira de Pera. So.
Oh, very nice part of Portugal. And how is it at the moment? Is it turning a little bit chilly and autumnal?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's rather cloudy and misty this morning, and there's a light rain that's just blessing the land. And it's the earth's rejoicing this morning here in Castanheira de Pera. It's so happy that we finally get a drink, the lovely agua. And
please carry on. That sounded like poetry. That was poetry. more nourishment for the ears and the heart this morning. Now, I'm not sure if I did it justice when I or did you justice when I was talking about you joining us today. You are, of course, leading the work now of Share and Care Portugal, and we have Debbie Dews to thank for starting this, of course. And as I understand it, she had a very sudden bereavement with Michael, which put her in quite a difficult position. She decided to set up a service to help people who face sudden bereavements here in Portugal. On the one hand, to help them with the system. And then on the other hand, of course, to deal with the bereavement, the grief, and the emotional, psychological adjustment thereafter. Is that about right? Is that the beginnings of Share and Care Portugal?
That was the beginnings, and it developed because the wonderful thing about living and dying here is it's so vast. There's so much to contemplate, because it's not just those who've loved and lost. It's those that, you see, death doesn't just happen in one moment. It's a transition, sometimes a slow, painful one. Sometimes, they can come quite quickly. But the thing is that when we're suffering with serious illnesses, maybe we've got heart issues, maybe we've had a stroke. Stroke's one of my specialities because I had one in 2017. It could be anything like dementia, Parkinson's, and it's a slow decline. And when someone's experiencing that, it's not just the person who's experiencing that's suffering, it's the whole family, and the community comes together. And one of the beautiful things about Portugal is we have such a strong community. So by bringing together various English-speaking people who have moved to Portugal, along with the English-speaking Portuguese, we're able to provide a service to help them navigate these times, because grief doesn't just happen when we lose someone. You know, when there's a transition like that, the grief begins when you find out you're terminally ill. It finds out when, like, maybe you've lost your job, or maybe you've split up from a partner, and that's grief. That is how we experience grief in that moment, and the following moments, because our life never changes, you know, never stays the same after that. It's one big transition, and it can flow, or we can have that fight. You know, many of us, I know for me personally, when I had the stroke, I'd gone from doing an awful lot, you know, working 108 hours a week and being all big and strong, to someone who couldn't open a bottle of water or a packet of crisps, and I couldn't talk, and I couldn't write, and I couldn't drive. So I'd lost my identity. And that's what people go through. They go through a loss of identity, not just the person with the illness, but the person who's lost who they knew and has someone to take care of. So we're here for carers, we're here for families, we're here for friends, as part of a wider community, to really provide the support that's needed, all the way up, right through from receiving a diagnosis, right through to past the actual transition to where people are grieving, and we continue to support people right through, because grief isn't, you can't stick a timeline on it. It's something that it evolves with the person. You grow with your grief, and as people are growing with the grief, we're helping them feel into where they are in the moment, you know. That's what we want to provide. We want to be able to help, because me and Debbie felt so passionately about this, that we do provide, like, you know, one-to-one talks. And the other thing, of course, was suicide. We've both been touched by suicide. I've been a Samaritan since 2014. So it's helping people who go through those times, those moments where they feel like they can't go on any further, and just be there in presence for them. So that's something else that I wanted to bring up, because no one has to be alone. And it's a really hard time for people, especially like with all the palaver that we've had going on over the last few years. And when you feel so alone and confined and trapped in a house, maybe because you can't go out and get your shopping because you're caring for someone, or maybe you feel so bad because you're dependent on people who don't want to ask, or maybe you're just trying to adjust to things, we can provide that extra support to improve your quality of life, to help you deal with the now and help you move forward, you know.
So things have really developed a lot since Deb's had this first vision and response to what went on for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, we've got a few people saying good morning this morning. Let's find out more about what you do as we make our way towards 10 o'clock this morning, and also how people can engage with you should they need to, because I'm sure some people will. You're proving, I mean, literally to be quite a lifeline for people, aren't you? And providing a service that up until this point has been, I think, quite hard to find here in Portugal, and that's just part of, I think, the developing migration picture. But thank goodness you're doing it. Brian Taylor's back with us this morning, but he's driving, so he can't chat. You just keep your eyes on the road there, Brian. Ciao to Mark. Beautiful insight into the Azores from Deagle there. Yeah, that was great. And look, we've got a spelling of Castanheira de Pera where you are or near this morning from Antonio F. Thank you for that. Lovely part of Portugal. Well worth a look. An amazing outdoor swimming pool, Lido there, one of the biggest, I think, in Portugal, if not Europe, just down the road from you.
Absolutely. It's very touristy there, though. It's not, you know, if you want to be surrounded by nature, you stick yourself in Sal Miguel, which is a bit further up the ICA.
Is that where the wonderful waterfall is?
Yeah.
Yes,
waterfalls and rivers and views to die for. So if you want nature, go and meditate yourself there. Otherwise, if you want a bit of people, and it's like being on I don't know, a strange beach in the middle of a beautiful little village where everything's very blue and very modern and very man-made.
It's huge, isn't it? And there are wave machines and all sorts. People come from miles around to go there. It's bizarre and brilliant. Okay, they're lovely people, says Mr. S, about possibly about the Azorians who went to Massachusetts and are into their second and third generations there. James has got to go. See you. Amanya, see you then. And good for you, Em. Message coming in from Pete. Well done for taking on the mantle. It is hard, says Pete. We have seen the difficulty in delaying funerals in order to get relatives over. Unfortunately, a friend committed suicide, my goodness, to save grief after a bowel cancer diagnosis at the weekend. Oh, my God. So sorry to hear that, Pete. Grief is actually love. You never grieve for a person you don't care about. Interesting, Deagle. Thank you for that. I always say it's love, and a beautiful thing is love. So take comfort from loving in life and not hating. Well said. Great work, Em, from Pam. Much needed. Thank you. Wow, Em, what a great service. Isn't this lovely this morning? I think some people didn't know about this, so it's good that you're here this morning. Thank you for what you're doing, says Jim up in Porto this morning. So sorry to hear this sad news, Pete. Absolutely, Pete. And in Ireland, says Deagle, we come together 1 month after the death for a month's mind first anniversary. Then it's hitting calendar dates, birthdays, Christmases, holidays, etc. that are painful. Yeah, the triggers and the memories that come up, of course. It's 1 to 3 years. We've got another bit. Oh, the process, the person's passing and the void left behind is what we're talking about this morning. Absolutely. I'm still in shock, says Pete. He was a childhood friend and such a lovely guy. He had kept it from everyone, but had been misdiagnosed. And when he found out, he didn't want his mum to suffer. Isn't that awful? Him getting ill. Bless you, Pete. Really sorry to hear about that. You may take some comfort from what's being said this morning, of course, with them being here and talking about Share and Care Portugal, which we've done our best to keep up with. And I think it's great this morning that you're here to fully furnish us with all the details and what's gone on and what services are available to people. We, of course, I mean, the journey of Share and Care took a very sad twist and quite a shocking one when Debs passed away suddenly as well, of course. And that would have given you more insight into what goes on at these difficult times in Portugal. Pete alluded to it there. It is different in Portugal, isn't it? It's not like you have got lots of time to fly people over. They like to get people, I don't know if processed is not the right word, but they like to get the body sorted out very quickly here, don't they?
Yeah, it's quite good though. It's very similar to the way that Muslims like to deal with things. They bring in the body, they wash the body. There's no messing about. There's no embalming done over here. You have to pay extra for that. It's another service. So basically, they bring in the body, love and respect the body, prepare it, service, burial is the major thing over here. Otherwise, you've got cremation. There is this is very important, there are no eco funerals in Portugal. There is one place, I think I mentioned that last time I spoke to you, there's one place you can have an eco burial, only you can't have an eco burial because it doesn't allow it, because there's rules from the 1800s that state the way it still is today in the present time. So if you want an eco-friendly funeral, the only way of doing it is to get cremated and then find something to do with the ashes that's still within the law, because the law states where you can dispose of ashes. It can be very specific, you know. So but it is easier, rather than like sending a body back to the UK, it's a lot easier to cremate someone and then have the death certificate with the ashes to then fly over, because then anyone can do it. And it reduces a lot of messing about, paying for embalming and all that. It means that just simply get it processed and send it back.
Okay, so there's a number of threads here that we need to address for people, because it's, you know, I know for you it's not, you must be talking about these sort of issues, matters every day, and it's in some way it's normalized for you. But most people don't want to talk about this, do they? They don't want to go here. It's a human instinct not to.
We're here to break that barrier, because there's two things in life that's going to happen and that are sacred, and that's coming into this world and leaving it.
Yeah.
And the beauty in a transition, whether it's transiting in or out,
Yes,
is such a blessing. It's an honor to be part of someone's journey, especially near the end. And
yes.
because of the way society looks at these things, it's scary. They don't want to talk about things like wills. They don't want to talk about what happens if I have a serious illness, or what happens if I'm in a car accident, and what's going to happen to me, and at what stage do whatever. Because when you try and have that conversation with even people that we love, they don't want to hear it. It's really important that we provide this service, which is part of what we do at Share and Care. Is you can come to me and say, oh, I'm looking at sorting out a will. Now, you don't need to tell me any of your personal details. I really don't want to know, you know. But what I am happy to do is I'm happy to say, you know, have you got a power of attorney? Have you got people you can trust? Have you got people that will make sure that what you want matters? You know,
Yes.
Have you got that listening ear? Have you got someone to talk to? Do you need me to sit with you? Would you like me to sit with you? We can discuss this. We can discuss a living will, and we can discuss what you'd like to happen at different processes. You know, if there was a serious illness, and if there was a sudden accident or something, and we can get that done. We can go through the book, because it's hard work, Carl. I've done it myself, and a lot of the time it brings up thoughts you don't really like thinking about, and you sit there crying and thinking, well, if this happened to me, what would I do? But what you're doing by taking responsibility and doing it now is you prevent your loved ones having to take those decisions for you. You prevent them having to shoulder that responsibility, and you take the weight off. And it's the kindest gift you can give to someone. You know,
and that's all part of
these things.
Sorry, say that again. I interrupted you.
I said you don't need to think about these things then, or they don't. You know, it's all sorted.
Yes, and there seems to be a movement in some parts of the world where elders and people who are certainly getting to that, considering that their transition away from this existence, are getting things in order like that. It's a kind of conscious and responsible approach, isn't it? To rather than just like, I don't want to talk about it. That could be someone else's problem later.
The word there, the key word, Carl, was conscious. And it's about having a conscious death. It's conscious dying. And conscious dying is a good death. I know you think, oh, good death. What's a good death? What's a good death to you? And a good death can be different for everyone. Each one of us has a completely different good death. And for me, when I die, if it's not in a serious accident or something, I would really like to have certain music on. I'd like certain levels of lighting. I'd like certain people that are allowed to come around in my space. There's certain people I won't want in my space, because you don't want people whinging and whining and draining your energy. I certainly you know, so someone who's happy to sit there with a few mantras, maybe get the incense going, and just being present. And that's something that I do. If someone would like someone to sit with them towards the end, or, you know, I'm happy to go and sit and be present, and they're not on their own. They don't have to be. And
that's so powerful.
Our fear of death can really create a massive obstacle to us having a good death. And
You're
when
so
we
right.
let go of our fears, we're able to just breathe out, and that's it. Our transition is as simple and as beautiful as taking off a tight shoe, as Ram Dass says. It's simply breathing out and letting go. But when we're fighting, and when our family is fighting at our bedside, and we can hear it even if we can't interact with that, it's really not a pleasant way to go at all. So true. When we're able to communicate our wishes in life and in living, and as we are now, when it comes to that time, it's less of a shock. And it helps people process things far more easily. And you never get over grief. Grief, or once it's in there, it's there forever. But it's finding different ways of managing it and living with it and evolving with it, because it becomes a friend.
I like what you're saying this morning. Thank you for being here. This might be an uncomfortable conversation for some people to hear, but I think it's on whether we do it or we don't do it. I think that it's right that we do it. And of course, if you are discomforted or become anxious about anything we're talking about, Share and Care Portugal are there to help you with that as well, and of course our whole community here. So we're not just bringing this up and running away for the sake of it. We are bringing this up because we want people to have an easier time and not go through some of the terrible things that certainly Deb's had to experience, which was the founding force really of Share and Care Portugal. So much in there to talk about, Em. And people may wish to contribute as well, as they are doing. It isn't easy, says Pete. This is a situation you can find yourself in, of course, because the police will want to investigate any suspicious circumstances. That's not going to be easy in a new language and a new culture, is it? But you need pretty good Portuguese to deal with funeral directors and the GNR, the police force, as Pete's saying. We have seen, Em's shaking her head. We have seen Philomena sort a few funerals, and she is so lovely with it. Go on, what's your response to that, Em?
Yeah, through watching, and I've been kind of on the sidelines for a few now. That sounds like it's a football match or something.
It does
but
a bit,
I mean, with all the love in my heart, I have been. It's been an honour to be, assisting or guiding from the sidelines, and it's seeing that there is an awful lot who can talk English. There's an awful lot who it's really, everyone's so flexible, and in some ways, I feel, to be honest, that they're a bit too flexible. Something that I noticed with watching, particularly one very close person in my heart, was watching how the questions didn't get asked that I expected. When you look into things at first and you're told this is the process, this is what happens. You follow this kind of flow chart, if you like, and you start off here and you do this, and then you're like, okay, I can go with that. I've got something to go off. I can go with that, and it'll be all right. Well, actually, what happened was nothing like the flow chart at all. It all kind of was one big fuzzy, unclear mess that made me question absolutely everything possible that there was to question about the process when someone passes and how people deal with it. And that has made me adamant about helping people get the shit sorted beforehand. Excuse my French.
No, both of my guests this morning have been quite frank in this way.
When we don't get things in place straight away, and when we can, and while we're able, and while we're capable of making such a difficult choice and decision,
yes.
When it comes to it, in that state of being where everything's in turmoil and there's a lot of maybe families and friends and property and all sorts of things going on, and then you've got the family politics as well as the community politics and things, and then you've got cultural things as well. The last thing you want to do is bring in, trying to follow around all sorts of things happening. Yeah. And it's discomforting and uneasy to go through that, So everyone's going off things that they're not even legal. Do you know what I mean? And
who's doing this? Who do you mean who is doing this?
It's without getting. To be honest, I don't know the process for GNR, so I can't comment there.
Yeah.
But when it came to doctors and funeral directors and solicitors, I found that none of them were following the protocol that stated even on their websites.
Okay.
And I think it's at times like that where you need someone who's got a bit more awareness.
Yes, of course.
Them.
Yeah,
to
because
be able to
the
help.
friends and family are quite traumatized in this situation,
Absolutely.
and this is how to me, you know, like crowbarring, and I don't mean wish to be insensitive or disrespectful here, but certainly we've industrialized the process, haven't we? It's kind of quite unconscious. You were using the word conscious. It's quite unconscious what goes on with, and I'm sure you're probably a reader of Stephen Jenkinson's books, who talks about the death industry that he worked in, and what's become of us with this whole possibility and process of transitioning from this world. And I think a few canny professionals have made the most of our unwillingness, our own personal unwillingness to deal with it, and stepped in with a few protocols. You know, of course they would do if we're not going to be taking responsibility for it. There's always somebody around. There's always a disaster capitalist around to take advantage of a situation, isn't there?
I love that phrase. I don't want to give them any more energy, though.
Right, okay. But what you're advocating for, what you're advocating for, I think, is that there is a protocol. It could be better followed, and to be more conscious. That's everybody involved in the process. It might make for an easier time if people get these things sorted out ahead of time and plan, rather than be in a panic and then make decisions that are probably not so supportive.
Or have the decisions taken away because people don't know. They're unaware what is available to them. In the UK, for instance, embalming is something that virtually everyone gets. You have to wait about. Over here, it's not like that at all. You know, so there's different processes with the body. There's different places people take the body. There's over here is very, very Catholic based.
Yes.
Anyone can do the funeral. Anyone, you know. As you know, Carl, I'm a reverend, and a non-denominational minister, and I can hold funerals and birthing ceremonies and naming ceremonies and weddings and stuff like that. But over here, anyone can step in. You know, Batty, my dog, could step in and lead a funeral if he you know,
is it available?
Absolutely.
It's okay. All right. Anyone. A nice light-hearted approach as well. I think we've got to talk more about this. I mean, just generally speaking, but we need to get you back with an update every now and then on some of the specifics, because I mean, one thing I wanted to talk about was how it is that if you've got a will in this country, you do need an extra piece of legal paperwork to make sure that your wishes are adhered to in the right way.
Not right, Carl.
Go on, Em. How is it?
They don't actually pay attention to that if you did. So what you need is something like a process that you set up personally yourself. Yeah. So for me, if something happens to me, I have an ICE, and in case of an emergency in my phone. Yeah. And that you tap on that, and I have the same person in my purse on a piece of paper, the name and contact number. So it's always on my person. And that the person that they will contact in an emergency knows the script. They know what I want. They know what to put into action depending on what stage I'm at or what's happened.
And so that can be anybody.
The first vital thing to do to take responsibility is, once you've worked out what you want, tell someone who's very trustworthy, who you do, you know, and if need be, make them a power of attorney.
Yes.
In Portugal, you need 2.
Oh, is that right?
So you can have the same one for both, but in Portugal, they have a power of attorney that deals with like finances and your house.
Same in UK. Yeah.
But then you have another one, or the same one, but to deal with health and wellness and your body.
Clearly, we've opened up Pandora's box here, and we're going to have to talk.
It always happens when you talk to me.
It does, doesn't it? And I think I'm talking to you later on this morning. So because what I'm thinking is this should be a webinar. This should be a workshop, even. You know, I think this would be an incredible workshop to go on with that deals with practicalities as well as the more moving and emotional parts of the process, where people can really
want to put something on. I'd happily join you, and we can.
I think we need to do that.
Pull in a workshop and run maybe online death cafes or something, and really just be there to allow people, the community, to come together and talk about their fears. and ask the
Very good.
questions.
Yeah, I think it's part of a good life,
for.
isn't it? Ironically, strangely enough, paradoxically, a part of having the best life is probably having a good death, as you've explained it there for us this morning. I've always told Mrs. Duck that I'd like to be cremated, but I prefer whatever is easiest for her, and that's a great sentiment. And you may need to be more specific about that, as Emma's said, and have a plan. So that you don't just get hijacked by other people's agendas, which I think does happen, not necessarily as a negative or bad thing, but other people want to help you and they'll probably do it their way if you don't insist on your way. I plan on a conscious death. I hope to have quiet around. You don't want a lot of people clucking, do you? And saying, you know that picture? Can I have that picture?
It happens.
Talk about that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Virtual testament. IW Virtual Testament wrote a testament on the SNS app, so my daughter will not have to decide what to do in the worst case. Laura P, there is help within the Portuguese health system. That's good to know. So we can come back and talk about that at another time. We've opened a can of worms this morning, and an interesting choice of words, because if you have a burial here, it's the can of worms that's going to get you in the end as you embark on the circle of life. So I can focus on union with spirit before and during the process. Okay, so sorry I broke up your comment there, but that's a lovely sentiment, Sarah. Sarah uncovered. She's no longer nom de plume. Thank you. I've just noticed that the truth comes out, and I think we are talking about truth in a certain kind of way this morning, focusing on union with spirit before and during the process. Yes, Sarah. An organisation, the Kevin Bell Trust, helps repatriation of Irish citizens who pass around the world. It's a massive help in a time of crisis. They have massive contacts worldwide, and it's a charity. Very good, Kevin Bell. That's for Kevin Bell Trust. That's for all the Irish folks who might be tuned in, who might need to know about that. A workshop is a great idea. I think so. We need to get together for a day, don't we? Somewhere, maybe Castanera de Pera, and then we go for a swim afterwards. Only kidding. Question for Em, finally then. What do you think of dying alone? Oh, some are fearful of it. I guess everyone dies alone in a sense, don't they? But I imagine it is an opportunity to anchor the higher power without distraction. So last question, we'll get you back. What do you think of that?
Well, dying alone, death is a personal choice. You have a choice. You know, people forget they have a choice in these things. Maybe you want to die alone, and you can certainly ask for that. Yeah. There are some people who do travel to, you know, who are having assisted death, and they'll travel to things like Dignitas and that for the transition. And some do prefer to be on their own. But the thing is, part of what the work I do with someone who is planning their transition. So we look at what they want and what the fears are surrounding death. I do something called fearless death work, and I help people look at what it is that maybe why they don't want people there. Maybe they're feeling less of what they feel they should be, and it's coming to a form of acceptance so that they can find a way of doing it that they're comfortable and happy with, that also fits with their circle. Because some people don't have family, you know, so. Yeah,
of course. And that's often the case, isn't it, for migrants? You know, they've moved away from their family. They've created a new family, a virtual family, possibly. And the family who are their blood relatives don't necessarily know them that well anymore. So it might be awkward or inappropriate for them to be intimately involved in that last moment. I just think it's interesting, this idea of dying alone. I mean, it's like when on the other end of the pipeline, if you like, when someone's born, I guess they come into the world alone, they're naked, and we make them welcome by joining our tribe. They hear our voices, they smell us, they hear us, and there's that lovely part of, you know, having a baby come in. And actually, I remember when our youngest was born, the midwife said, "I'm going to stop talking now, so this little fella can only hear your voices." And I thought, oh, such a nice touch. Now, the same would be true in death as well, wouldn't it? That how important the quality of the atmosphere is. That the people aren't clanking around and already packing up your stuff. Of course. I think
many people are there and they're really, really near the end. And maybe for whatever reason, they've got someone there and they're hanging on, and this person's present, and maybe that person will nip to the toilet, then the person will go.
Yes.
So the person actually can choose the moment, and they might really want to pass on their own, you know, and they might be just waiting for that moment to just finally just You know.
No, I've heard of this.
I've
I've heard of this. Yeah, my dad knew I was on my way, and I didn't get to be by his side when he passed. But I did see a cracking thunderstorm occurred, and then a rainbow in the sky passing where he used to live on the motorway, going back to the hospital. And then Louisa phoned me up saying the kettle just exploded here at home. This is people, I think in many ways do something chooses, doesn't it? Some choice appears to occur, and these incredible supernatural things happen. What an amazing conversation this morning, Mama Bear McGowan. Thank you for being here. We'll continue. You and I are going to talk, I think, later this morning anyway, so that'll be an interesting recording. And the workshop idea seems to have legs here this morning. So thank you for being here. You're going to stay for the dad jokes as a little palate cleanser. A bit clunky, I know. I don't know. It's optional. Do you want to stay for these?
I'd love to.
Okay, all right. I say it's a palate cleanser. We've been talking about some very important and profound stuff, but what better way to kind of shake that off for the time being until the next time we talk, Em, with some of this. I stayed up all night wondering where the sun went, and then it dawned on me. That's more profound than we might imagine. If a mime gets arrested, does he have the right to remain silent? And finally, then this morning, you don't have to laugh. You can just slap your forehead. That's what happens with the groan of dad jokes, the collective noun for dad jokes that we have every morning. When the cannibal showed up late to the buffet, they gave him the cold shoulder. That's good. Yeah. Very good. Thank you, T-Duck, for those. Thank you, Em, for being here. Can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you so much for bringing love and light and consciousness to what is obviously a very difficult subject for people, and carry on doing the fantastic work you're doing with Share and Care. I'll make sure the connection to the Facebook group is on the screen as we say goodbye this morning. Ciao, Talogo. Ciao for now, Em.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.